Welcome, welcome, welcome back, my Be Health Empowered family, to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. My name is Dr. Melissa Clark. Of course, please call me Dr. Mel. And we're here each and every Monday night doing what we do to make sure that you have all the information that you need to make wise health decisions, not just for yourself, but also for your family, your loved ones, and your community. So we thank you for joining. And we ask that if this is your first time, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're checking us out on YouTube, that like button. If you're checking us out on Facebook, and we're here for you. So please remember, put your comments, your questions in the chat, because it's all about that sharing and talking with each other, right? Even though we are virtual, we still are community. So thank you for joining in. And for those of you that always roll with us, you know that it is time for me to introduce my amazing co-hosts, Miss Lila Mays, Mr. Wayne Bruce. Come on in the house. How y'all doing?
How you doing, Dr. Mel?
All right. All right. I mean, I see y'all are ready for the occasion. I mean, the pink is popping, especially that hat.
It's popping.
The mauve hat. Look at the mauve pink. I just got a regular old golf pink here.
Golf pink.
With the pink also in my hat. You know what I'm saying?
I see you. I see you trying to garanimal it. I got it. The matching.
Why we have to say garanimals? Why did we have to say garanimals?
Looking good.
Listen, let's jump right into this thing. So it's still October, and that means it's still Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So on tonight's show, we're still promoting awareness and honoring all those who have had a breast cancer diagnosis. This is a show every sister needs to tune in for.
Now, fellas, don't
Absolutely.
tune out. Like, we don't need the fellas to tune out. You know what I'm saying? We're part of this too. The women we love need us. We're needed throughout your journey. And not to forget, like we have to remind you of the mammographies, right? Nobody wants to get those. We got to show up, listen, and support. But also, Shaft, Richard Roundtree, died of breast cancer.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Yes,
yes, thank you for that reminder. Yeah.
I never forget.
No.
He's a man with a plan.
Yeah.
Nobody
Even though
but his woman.
Thank you. Thank you for the full quote. We appreciate you on that. And we honor Richard Roundtree and brothers too, to your point, also have breast cancer diagnoses. We're going to be breaking down breast cancer tonight for everyone, the prevention, the diagnosis, how to advocate for yourself to get the high quality health care that we all deserve. And this is especially key for Black women who we don't get breast cancer more often than other groups, but we die more often from it. And that is not okay. So that advocacy part is key.
Yeah. So that's why we've invited Dr. Don Leonard, a leading breast surgeon, and the one and only Shanice. Yes, that Shanice, who's sharing her personal journey as a breast cancer survivor.
Yeah, I had the pleasure, and I have the pleasure on more than one occasion to serve as Shanice's music director, and recently, and just heard her powerful testimony. I mean, that she bravely shared with the audience on stage. She shared that testimony every night, and knew that our Be Health Empowered family here needed to hear that story too. I mean, it is a courageous journey. I'm very proud to know her and serve her as her music director.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Dr. Leonard, known for her brilliant and compassionate care of breast cancer patients, is going to be bringing the facts. So now's the time to stop what you're doing and share, share, share. So you know what to do. Even if you ever hear those words, you have a diagnosis of breast cancer.
Yeah.
This is the show to
Right.
work.
Right. Because we love each and every one of those listening. We want you here. We want you healthy. We want you thriving, even if you've had a diagnosis of breast cancer. So make sure you're listening in. Write your questions in the chat, like I mentioned before. Share your story in the chat if you
Yeah.
can. And also, please make sure to share this episode with those that you love.
We must do.
So I am going to thank you all for helping me intro this show. We want to make sure that we have the most amount of time devoted to this. So we're going to jump right in, and I am going to, highlight again that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But this is a conversation that matters all year long because breast cancer is alive and well. Approximately every 2 minutes, a woman in the United States is diagnosed with breast cancer. That equates to over 750 diagnoses per day. And so, as you heard, Dr. Dawn Leonard is a top fellowship trained breast cancer surgeon, physician of the year, top doc honoree, who's helped hundreds of women fight breast cancer. She is with us tonight as one of our experts. Thank you so much, Dr. Leonard. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
And our other guest tonight is Shanice, the beautiful R&B pop singer and actress we all love, wife, mom, performing since the age of 9, hit maker. We all know I Love Your Smile. And she is currently performing in the musical 44, which we had the pleasure of seeing, an amazing musical. If anybody has a chance to go see it. She is a breast cancer survivor with a story that's going to touch your heart. Welcome to the show, Shanice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Mel, for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually going to start with Dr. Leonard. And I just kind of, I have a couple of set the table questions because I want people to know what it is that you do, Dr. Leonard, as a breast surgical oncologist. What does that mean? And what got you interested in it?
Well, breast surgical oncologist in the modern era. My background training was 5 years of general surgery, followed by a breast surgical oncology fellowship to practice breast health care, both cancer and benign disease. What got me interested, I had the honor of training at Howard University in the footsteps of giants. And what I realized in caring for cancer patients through surgery was that I still wanted to have a hand in women's healthcare. And breast surgical oncology is the best of both worlds. It's the surgical world, but it's also the long-term care world. Breast cancer patients are your patients for life. So you're able to not only impact their disease process, but you're also able to maintain long-term relationships and care.
That is wonderful. And I just have to shout out any woman that finishes a surgical residency is a rock star. I just want to say that because it is such a male dominated specialty. So kudos to you and thank you for everything that you do. And the same sort of set the table question for Shanice. You're an award-winning singer and an amazing actress. What was your life like before your cancer diagnosis?
My life was and still is great. I have two beautiful kids. I've been married to my husband for 25 years. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary this year.
Wow.
Before the breast cancer, oh my gosh, one thing I can't say that I miss is I ate really good. Like I didn't have to think about what I wanted. Like if I wanted a piece of pizza or if I wanted some fried chicken or whatever, I didn't think about anything. I just enjoyed my life and I didn't have to think about, oh, should I eat this? Or, could something happen if I eat, I took myself off of sugar because of it and stuff. So
my husband said, man, I missed all the good food we used to eat. So I don't eat those, the good tasting food anymore. So I kind of miss that. And my life before the diagnosis was actually really cool. Like I ate some really good tasting food that I don't eat anymore. So that's the part that I do miss.
It sounds like you and I are both foodies. I get that. And we're gonna get back to that. So I want everybody to remember, because I'm gonna get back to you and ask you, later about how your life has changed. So Dr. Leonard, let's start simple. Why is it so important for women, especially Black women, to pay attention to breast health?
Well, in general, breast cancer is one of the most common cancers women are going to experience. It's actually number one when you take skin cancer out of the mix. Although it has significant incidence, 1 in 8 women are going to get breast cancer in their lifetime. It's actually a very survivable cancer. It has one of the highest survival rates. And there are more breast cancer survivors living in this country than any other cancer survival when you take skin out of it.
That's
for Black women, it's particularly important because we are diagnosed at younger ages with more aggressive disease, higher stages, and have poorer survival. So it's especially important for us to be aware of our breast health so that we can have early diagnosis. Early diagnosis translates into improved survival.
When you say higher stages, what does that mean?
So breast cancer is stage 0 through 4, from least aggressive to stage 4, which is incurable. The higher the stage, the larger or more advanced the cancer is, going from just being within the breast to breast and lymph nodes, and then ultimately stage 4 cancer, which is incurable but not untreatable, is when it spreads outside of the breast and regional lymph nodes.
Got it. So, given that, this is a disease that Black women get at younger ages than other women, and it's more aggressive. I want to go to you, Shanice, and kind of understand what had been your pattern of getting mammograms or paying attention to breast health before your diagnosis. Was this something that was sort of uppermost in your mind, or this was something that just sort of happened and with no thought about it before?
No, you know what? For years, hold on, make sure I got this camera right. For years, I would get my mammograms every year. Then I developed cysts. I started getting cysts in my breast. I remember the first time I felt this, it was so big, you could literally see it sticking out of my breast. Wow. And I got so scared, and I spoke to my aunt. I called my aunt on the phone. She said, I bet you it's a cyst. She said, we're in the same family. She said, I've been dealing with cysts my whole life, and they come and go, and it's just fluid, and call the doctor, go get it checked, but I know you're okay. Well, I went in, they checked me. They said, it's just a cyst. That big thing that stuck out of my breast, it went away. It dissolved. They come and they go. So I got used to having lumpy breasts because I would get cysts all the time. But then I went to the doctors one time to do my regular mammogram. And one day they thought they saw something. This was like 8 years ago. They said, we want to do a biopsy. And I was like, normally when I go in, it's normal for them to say, well, we want to do an ultrasound. Like I would always do a mammogram and an ultrasound because I have dense breasts. I had cysts. So I was used to getting the ultrasound and the mammogram. But one particular time they said they thought they saw something. So they told me to go to another place to get a biopsy. Well, when I went to do the biopsy, the doctor there said, I would like to run my own test before I do a biopsy. So he ran his own test. And then he told me he said, it's a cyst. He said, there's nothing to do a biopsy on. He didn't see anything. So just that one scared me to the point where I didn't go back for like 8 years. I was terrified because I never wanted to hear, because the feeling of them thinking they saw something, and I knew what that fear felt like. So I was like,
Yeah.
I forgot to even go back. Like I just blocked it out of my brain and didn't go
Right.
back for 8 years. And then I felt a lump in my breast, and like, oh, I'm sure it's just a cyst because I get them all the time. But I noticed that the cyst didn't go away. And when I would drink a lot of coffee, the coffee would make my cyst get bigger. And then I'd get off coffee and then my cyst would shrink. So I was like, okay, let me stop drinking coffee because maybe the caffeine is causing me to cyst. So I stopped drinking coffee and it didn't go away. So make a long story short, I said, let me just, after about 8 years, I was like, let me just be brave and go and do the mammogram. And then when I went to do the mammogram, they told me that day they think they see something. They did the ultrasound and a mammogram. And they said, could you come back in tomorrow so we could do a biopsy like the very next day? I went in the next day, and then my doctor called me and said, well, you have something called DCIS, which is just in the milk ducts. He said, it's contained in your milk ducts. He was like, if you're going to catch anything, this is the thing to catch because it's at stage 0. It's just in the milk ducts. You're going to be fine. Don't panic and all that. So I went to talk to a doctor, and the doctor said they wanted to remove my entire breast for something that was stage 0. And I was confused because I was like, why would you remove my whole breast when it's at stage 0? But I had so much DCIS in my milk ducts that I think that my breast would have looked deformed if they just taken that out and not taken the breast. So I didn't feel comfortable with and tell me if I'm talking too long because
Well, let me stop you there because I know you've touched on a lot of things. I want to sort of also bring Dr. Leonard in because I heard a couple things. One is that you had breasts that had you get cysts from time to time, and also we know Black women tend to have denser breasts. So I wanted to ask Dr. Leonard to comment on, what role do these other cysts and dense breasts, how do you think about those things in the diagnosis and sort of screening for breast cancer?
Well, the description, thank you, Shanice, for being so transparent, because I think that information is super important. And also being willing to share how frightened you were when you had that first message saying, oh, we think there's something more, and what that means. I think it's powerful that women understand that they're not alone in that fear and that feeling. Cysts unto themselves, and per your description, you have fibrocystic breast, which are breasts that form more cysts, are more prone to being painful, reacting to caffeine or stress. That has no impact whatsoever on development of breast cancer in the future. Dense breast, we do think of that as being a risk factor in that the dense breast is much harder to screen. It's harder to see through the dense breast on a mammogram as it is in a breast that's not dense. But that doesn't mean that mammograms are not effective. We tend to have a lower threshold for additional studies such as ultrasound, and in some cases MRI in patients with dense breast and palpable findings or a lump that we can feel but we can't characterize. And we also tend to have a lower threshold for a biopsy in patients who have lumps that we know we feel that are new for the patient, that are not their normal cyst, but we can't quite figure out what it is on that mammogram or that ultrasound or sometimes even that MRI.
Thank you so much. And yes, thank you, Shanice, for being open and sharing with us your thoughts and your fears. Because I think, for a lot of women, that might be something that stops them from going to get mammograms. So I know we sort of stopped with your making a decision around surgery. So tell us a little bit about what your treatment was like, and some of those decision points that you had to make.
So I went to a doctor. The first doctor I went to told me she wanted to remove my whole breast. I wanted to get a second opinion. So a friend of mine called me late at night and said, I think you should go to City of Hope. And I was like, what is that? And it's like, they specialize in cancer. The very next day, my husband was on the golf course, and this guy told my husband the very next day, you need to take your wife to City of Hope. And that was
just to be clear, this is in Los Angeles, right?
This is Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hospital that's special. It's just for cancer. It's a cancer
Mm-hmm.
hospital.
Yeah.
So what happened was they told my husband to take me to City of Hope. My friend said I should go to City of Hope in LA. And so I got on the phone with one of the top radiologists there that my husband's friend knew. And I want to say this, my mother-in-law called me, Flex's mom. She said, I think you should have a praying doctor. You need a doctor who prays. And I was like, how am I going to find a praying doctor? I don't know how to interview these doctors and ask them if they pray, you know? And so I knew I wanted a black doctor, and I wanted a praying doctor. So I talked to the radiologist at City of Hope. She gives me a list of doctors that she thinks I should look into. The very first name on the list was Veronica Jones. I was like, I think she's a Black woman. And so then I looked her up online, and I found out that her husband has a church in Pasadena, California. So she's a first lady at a church.
Wow.
That's the praying doctor.
That's the praying doctor.
Yes.
Wow. Your mother-in-law must have she got a direct connect somehow, huh?
Yes, she does. Oh, yeah. She loves Jesus.
Yeah.
Loves. So I said, that's the praying doctor, and she's a Black woman. So I met with her. We clicked immediately. And I'm in a musical called 44. I'm playing Michelle Obama in this musical. We had a show coming up in New York, and I did not want to miss the show. I couldn't cancel my surgery because I knew how important this was. But at the same time, I didn't want to miss my performance either. And so she said, look, I'm going to have to take your breast. She said, but the good news is I have an amazing plastic surgeon that can put the implants in. We can do the reconstructive surgery all at one time.
Wow.
So I did that. I met with the reconstructive, the plastic surgeon, and I clicked with her too. She's from London. I told her that I sang on one of the top shows in London called Top of the Pops. So she was like, oh, you're making me feel like I'm back at home in London. So both of my doctors, when I tell you we clicked, like we're still friends to this day. I call them like we're still friends. So anyway, and when I tell you, so they did an amazing job. After my surgery, 2 weeks later, I wasn't doing any lifting or anything, but once they took my drains out, because you have those drains after surgery, I went back to my rehearsal for my show 44. I didn't lift my arms up or do any, movements, but I was there to sing, and I was able to go back to rehearsal. About 4 or 5 weeks later, I was on stage in New York after I had my breast removed.
That's amazing.
One doctor was like, I think this is too soon. I was like, I'm not missing my show in New York, but it all worked out. I healed.
That is really wonderful. That is wonderful.
Like that whole process was really great. Was really
good.
And
you mentioned a couple of really key things. One is just interviewing your doctor and knowing what your wish list is ahead of time, because as Dr. Leonard said at the beginning, one of the reasons she went into breast surgical oncology is because you form a relationship with your patient that can be a lifelong relationship. So you want to be able to click with your doctor. So I'm so happy to hear that you interviewed your doctor. I know in my book, I write about how to interview a doctor, and I just want to highlight the importance of that. And then I want to go to Dr. Leonard because, when a woman gets that call that says, you have a breast cancer, a diagnosis of breast cancer, what happens next? What should she expect? And how does Shanice's story sort of dovetail with sort of the usual story? if there is a usual story.
There is no usual story.
Right.
Everyone's experience is unique, and that is the most important thing to remember. Sometimes I think that cancer patients have to remember it's almost like if they have children when they had their first baby. Everybody well-meaning who loves you will have a story for you. And oftentimes it doesn't necessarily relate to your experience, but it's from a place of love. First and foremost, when you get the news, stop and breathe, take a deep breath, and just let it start to process. And remember that this diagnosis is not a death sentence. When you come and see breast surgeons, we're usually pretty happy people because breast cancer is so survivable with the correct treatment. I don't necessarily think you should have a wish list at first. I think have that first conversation to get the information. You should be able to sit down with that doctor, review your pathology, review your imaging, talk about next steps in treatment in terms of additional testing, such as MRI screening or genetic testing in some cases. Talk through your options. Usually your doorway into the breast cancer world is a breast surgeon. And I believe that breast surgeons are people who specialize in breast surgery. And that's pretty much all they do. They don't necessarily have to be fellowship trained, but they should dedicate their life to the craft because we subspecialize for a reason. And breast surgeons treat cancer differently in some cases than general surgeons. Have the conversations, process the information because you have time to do that. Patients often think that they have to do everything immediately. Absolutely not. You have time to process and get the opinions that you need. I tell every single one of my patients, you get as many opinions as you need to make the care choices that are right for you. And I am personally never offended if a patient wants to get additional opinions or even go to a different provider. It's not about me.
I am so glad that you said that because I hear so many people say, well, can I get a second opinion? Won't I get the doctor upset? So thank you for saying that.
If they get upset, they're not the right doctor for you. As simple as that. Find another doctor. If they won't talk to you, find another doctor. If they don't listen to your concerns, find another doctor. The patient is the center of the story and is the director of the show.
Right. Absolutely. And so can you comment or talk a little bit about the surgery followed immediately by the reconstructive procedure? Are there some cases where you can do that and others that you can't? Is that or is that sort of the new standard of care? Maybe you could comment on that as well.
It's an option for appropriately selected patients. So many things do need to match up in terms of what you're starting with, so to speak. You know, how large is the breast that you're reconstructing? What is the cancer process? What is the post-operative expectation? If there's an expectation that regardless of surgery, that patient may need radiation, then an immediate direct to implant reconstruction may not be the best plan for that patient. So breast cancer care is very patient specific. It is tailored to you from beginning to end. And there are so many options from your lumpectomy alone to lumpectomy with tissue rearrangement. So you don't have a big dent or deformity in the breast, mastectomy with or without reconstruction, using implants or using your own tissue. It is all very patient specific. And once you have the right patient and the right surgery, they just fly right through it and they do beautifully.
Yes, thank you. And to me, the take-home point there is make sure that your doctor is explaining to you all the options personalized to what your specific case is and be a partner in that decision-making process. Would that be a fair summary?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. So, Shanice, do you feel like that you had to advocate for yourself at all during your treatment? I heard you say you got a second opinion and, you know, we as the choir are singing in the background. Amen on that. Are there any other points at which you felt like you had to advocate for yourself?
Yeah, well, they wanted to do the one breast, and I suggested that I said, I want both of my breasts removed. That was my decision. She was going to just do the one. I said, no, I said, I don't want nothing popping up on the other side or whatever. I said, just take both of them. And then she said afterwards, she said, you know what? You made the right decision, because unfortunately, when they retested everything after they removed my breast, of course, you test it again or whatever. And I had a stage 1 tumor in there, 1 centimeter. It was 1 centimeter, stage 1. So she said, I'm glad we did do both. So that was my decision. So yeah, I had to for myself.
Right. And I mean, sometimes it's just a gut feeling, right? But whatever it is for you, you have to make your preferences known. I think that's really important.
The good news is, I just want to say this, the good news about it is my lymph nodes were clear and my margins were clear. So it hadn't begun to spread or anything like that. So that was great too.
That is fantastic. Dr. Leonard, can you explain to us a little bit more about the significance of what Shanice just said? And what women should be.
There is so much. One thing I think that's important to remember, that many women, especially young women, should be offered genetic assessment at the time of diagnosis to see if they inherited a gene from mom or dad that increases their risk for developing another cancer, or is the cause of this cancer, because that often can drive a decision to have the breast removed, one or both. It's also important to recognize that in some cases, there absolutely may be a family history, there may be a strong history and no gene, but we don't ignore what's in front of us. Removing the other breast is a risk-reducing method. It is the most aggressive, but also the most effective method to reduce the risk of a breast cancer in the contralateral breast. About 15% of all breast cancers are what we call radiographically occult. They don't show up on mammogram or ultrasound or on MRI. And having the conversation with the patient and what they want is incredibly important in making that decision for a contralateral mastectomy.
Right, which just means a mastectomy on the other breast, on the opposite side. What can women do, Dr. Leonard, to lower their risk of breast cancer in the first place? You mentioned the role of a genetic component. What things do we have control over that we can be doing to lower our risk of breast cancer in the first place?
I think that was the key question. You worry about the things that are in your power. We cannot change our DNA. We cannot change our family history. We cannot change our genetics. So we don't worry about them. We're aware of them. Risk reduction comes from healthy diet and exercise. A heart-healthy diet combined with up to 3 hours of exercise a week, exercise and activity, can reduce breast cancer in some cases by up to 50%. Whole grains, lean meats, lots of fruits and vegetables. Drink your water, flush your system, get your sleep. 7 to 9 hours a night is ideal to allow your immune system and your other cells to heal. Reduce your stress and your anxiety. Shanice, you can still have the good things. It's just we do those things in moderation. Have the things that are delightful for you. I'm not giving up potatoes or French fries for anybody. That's my thing. So if fried chicken and pizza is your thing, girl, go
draw the line somewhere. Huh?
You just can't have it as much as you want to, but bring joy to your life, having social connections. All of those things, I guess, are incredibly important in bolstering that immune system. We don't have a direct link between sugar and cancer exactly, but we do like to think about more natural foods and reducing those processed foods as much as possible. Get your fiber, get your calcium, get your vitamin D, get outside, all those things.
Yeah.
Right. All the things that we know helps prevent so many diseases, because chronic inflammation is the framework or the foundation for so many diseases, and all those things decrease chronic inflammation in our body. So I want to get back to you, Shanice, because you talked about the foods before your cancer diagnosis. How has life changed for you since your cancer diagnosis in terms of choices that you make and things that you think about that you might not have thought about before?
I'm just starting to like get my joy back.
Mm.
You know,
Yes.
it's so hard to talk about it. I'm about to tear up a little bit, but when you get a cancer diagnosis, it's devastating. It's frightening.
Yeah.
And but you know what? I want to say this. God put angels in my life. Like I have the best like support system. And when I feel like I'm falling apart, I have certain people that I'll call that'll pray with me, that will like up like get like okay, my mom, for instance. My mom, she's had lung cancer before. She never had breast cancer, but she had lung cancer. And when they told her she had cancer, she said, okay, what do I do next? And they're like, we're going to remove it. She said, okay. She went in, had the surgery. I never heard her talk about it again. Like her faith is so strong that she didn't let it ruin her entire life. You know, she was like, I'm going to be fine. I'll just get it removed. And she just kept it moving. And so my mom, when they first said they wanted to remove my breast, I was devastated. Like I was like, remove my breast. And my mom was like, girl, if that's going to save your life, remove that breast, you know. And she made me laugh about it. And I was like,
Mama wisdom.
Yeah, she was like, girl, you'll wake up with some perky, some new breasts, you know, they'll be sitting up and, you know. So I was like, wow, I didn't think about it that way, you know. So like my mom, like my husband, I have like friends, like as a friend of mine, she's also an herbalist, but I talk to her all the time and she helps me when I'm like falling apart. And I just have like, God put some really good people in my life, because to be honest with you, I think the fear of it is the hardest part. It makes, when I tell you, it's the I've never felt this afraid as long as I've been on earth. It's frightening. And then you hear so many other stories. This person died, and that person died. This, you know, and but God is good. Like because of my faith and the people that I have around me, it's helped. But I spent a whole year of being frightened.
Wow.
I can't say that it's been the best year as far as like my mental health goes, because it's yeah, I don't wish this on my worst enemy anybody to ever go through this. I don't wish this on anybody.
Yeah.
But I want to say this: God is good. Before I'm in New York doing my musical. Before I came, I had my breast examined and I had my blood work done. I'm cancer free, and I'm cancer free. God is good.
God is good. Absolutely.
And I
And
get checked every 6
yeah,
months.
thank you so much for sharing that, you know, from the role of your community, your village, your mom, and that support that is so crucial.
Yeah.
To, you know, Dr. Leonard said in the laundry list of things that she mentioned, all of which are important, but I really think that managing stress in your life is one of the major things, especially for us as Black women. And stress, the definition is thinking that you don't have the resources to meet the situation. And that's why faith and a deep belief in something greater than yourself is so important, because that in and of itself helps address stress, because you're saying, well, maybe I don't have the resources, but there is a greater power than me outside of myself that I know does have the resources that I can lean on. And also the importance of the village, because the village is also another resource to lean on. So thank you so much for sharing that, and so being so open with that fear, because I know that that's real for so many people that hear those words, you know, you have a cancer diagnosis.
That's the thing that nobody who's a human being wants to hear. That's the one thing I think everyone's frightened of to get that kind of diagnosis.
Right.
Like, and then you have to, then they say, you know, stress can get you sick. So you hear something like that, but you can't stress because, you know, it's so hard not to stress, you know.
Yeah.
But I want to
Yep.
say this to you. I want to say they tested, you know, as far as it being in my genes, that test came back fine, like negative. Like I don't have it's not in my genes. But my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother, my grandmother did have lung cancer, and then later on in life, when she reached 80 something, she had breast cancer, and she's the only one in my family that I know that was died. Like none of my aunts and cousins or anybody else has ever had breast cancer. So it's just
Yeah, thank you
that
for sharing that. Dr. Leonard, I don't know if you could comment before we go to the audience questions on the sort of the BRCA gene and how it's constantly being updated as more and more people get tested. Can you comment a little bit on that and how you might hear that it's not genetically related, but then maybe later down the line? I'm not saying that this is the case for you, Shanice, but it did happen to a physician friend of mine. So if you could comment on that, that'd be great.
So real quick, I forgot the two most important things: reduce your alcohol, quit smoking, and control your weight. Those are all other things that can reduce our risk of breast cancer. I was so happy about healthy diet and exercise. I forgot those things. Genetic testing has gotten very complex. It originally started with our knowledge of two breast cancer genes, BRCA1, BRCA2. Of all the breast cancers, about 15 to 20% of all breast cancers are genetically mediated. And now when we test for those genes, we're actually testing for up to 48 and sometimes up to 75 different genes that are known to have a causative effect for breast cancer. And that's part of how we get updates. One of the things that we said, we don't ignore the person's history or the family history. Bilateral breast cancer is one of those flags that tells us, hey, there might be a genetic cause here. And sometimes we actually ask patients to retest over time because we're learning more and more about different genes as well as different changes on known genes. So genes can be reclassified over time, or we've discovered something new. So right now, anybody who was not panel tested or was tested before 2016, we are starting to think, hey, probably should retest and have a panel if you meet those criteria. We look at age, we look at family history, personal history. We look at the type of cancer. Triple negative breast cancers, which are those cancers that don't respond to female hormones to grow and don't overproduce a certain protein on a gene called HER2. Those have a higher risk of being associated with a genetic mutation. If there's a male in the family that had breast cancer, if there's ovarian cancer in the family, if there's breast and ovarian cancer, sometimes colon cancer, early onset prostate cancer, melanoma. So we look at all of these factors and even cancers that seem like they're not related to try to figure out, is there a genetic cause? And sometimes we have to go back and look at those genes again because we've learned more. And they can be reclassified as having significance.
Right. And I just want to point out, Shanice, this is all, well, I'm really pointing out to the audience, this has all happened in the last year for Shanice, the testing, the surgeries, all of that. So the fact that you have come to talk with us, having so recently gone through that, we really, really appreciate it. And I want to make sure that we get the audience questions in here. So I'm going to ask Wayne and Lila to come on back and let us know what's going on in the chat.
All right, lots going on in the chat. I'm going to ask this first question from Sean L. Perry to Dr. Leonard. In my conversations with seniors, access and transportation often come up as barriers to getting screened. What strategies or resources would you suggest to make sure our older population can still get timely mammograms?
I think one of the most important things is for people to understand that no matter what the guidelines say, we really shouldn't have a cutoff for mammograms. Some of the guidelines recommend that we stop getting mammograms in women over age 70. Others say over age 75. And then others say, well, if you think life expectancy is less than 5 than 10 years. I'm not psychic. I don't know what your life expectancy is. I think we should go on vitality. If you have a vital senior who has quality of life, they continue to be screened until such time as they feel that it's necessary to be screened, no more. We like to put people together, take groups together. Screening mammograms are pretty quick. And we like to take groups together, especially if there's a fear factor involved. Oftentimes too, family involvement. If I'm getting a mammogram, I'm gonna bug my mama. Come on, mama, let's go get a mammogram together. So there are a lot of strategies, but the most important one is for seniors to understand that screening is still important. And if their doctor is not checking their breast or discussing these things with them, get another doctor. Just get another doctor.
Yeah. Agreed.
Wow.
What else do we have?
So another one of our West Coast producers, Rhoda Lawrence, says, how do we get the genetic assessment? Can it be requested during our annual physical?
That's a great question. First and foremost, yes, it can be requested or discussed. Some primary care offices do it. Oftentimes, many OBGYN offices do it. Prior to getting screened or having the test, they often have you have a screening study, a screening questionnaire looking at your personal and family history to see if you meet the criteria for genetic assessment. Unfortunately, if you don't meet the criteria for genetic assessment, insurance is not going to pay for it. And these are not cheap tests. In some cases, if you've had a cancer diagnosis, your oncologist will be directing that, or your oncologic surgeon could be directing it. But I always say start with primary care to start the discussion. Many of them will also have resources to refer you to for genetic testing and counseling if they don't do it in their offices.
And I want to just piggyback on that, Dr. Leonard, just to mention that, if someone does have genetic testing in your family and it is positive, you should share that information widely with your family members, because that is one of the criteria for you then to go ahead and get tested. So talk amongst yourselves in your family, be open, share health information. A lot of times in all families, and sometimes it's generational, sometimes it's not, there's this thing about, being tight-lipped about your medical history. But it is very important, especially nowadays, when we can be more proactive to really be able to share those things.
Now, Dr. Mel said that real nice, but I'm going to tell you, Black people, talk to each other, okay? All this secrecy stuff and not sharing information, we got to stop doing that. We have got to share. All right, that's my 2 seconds. This is for both Shanice and Dr. Leonard. And I have to tell you, ladies, that both of you, your speaking voices are just lovely. So thank you, because sharing this information really, and it coming from you and the way you speak is really landing, I think, for a lot of people, for me in particular. What's your message, Shanice? You talked about being scared, and that sort of detoured you from going back for regular mammograms. But I'll start with you, Shanice, but this is for both of you. What's your message for Black women watching today who might be afraid to go get screened? How do you overcome it? Oh, I think you're muted, Shanice. Our producer, our intern.
My intern had you on. We have an intern in here, and they had you on.
Hitting buttons left and right.
They hit the button. We need to fire that person.
I would say, don't be afraid. Don't do what I did, because early detection will save your life. So, yeah, please, learn from my mistake and get checked yearly, regularly. Get your mammograms, ultrasounds, all of that stuff, because
we lost her.
She'll be back.
Well, I'm sure she'll be back. But Dr. Leonard, anything to add on that?
Oh, there she is.
Okay, great.
We back.
No, I was just saying that if I would have been gone, I waited 8 years. Had I gone like a year prior or 2 years prior, I probably could have caught it before it turned into stage 1. I could have caught it at stage 0, or I just say that early detection will save your life. So don't be afraid, because getting that diagnosis is not a death sentence. I'm still here to tell my story, and so I just say, don't just learn from my mistake and get checked. That's what I would say.
Dr. Leonard, anything to add?
Leonard?
I would say, be where your feet are. We can't control the past. We can only control where we are and move forwards. So, it's okay that you missed 8 years. We don't blame you, and you shouldn't blame yourself at all. And the fact that you are willing to be here at such a tender time when it's all so new and fresh is really amazing, and it's to be applauded. Talk, you're doing the thing that so many people are afraid to do. Speak to each other, speak to your doctor, advocate. And if we won't listen to you, fire us and get somebody else. Yes. Representation matters. We need more brown faces out there that look like us. They understand our experience. They understand our cultural fears. They understand what we're facing. And they understand the particular challenges that you face as a Black woman with breast cancer, or a Black man with breast cancer. Right. But just be where your feet are. Be open and willing to talk. Fight for yourselves. Fight for those you love. And then we just move forward with grace and with dignity.
Right. And when you said cultural understanding, I thought praying doctor.
Right.
That's right.
That's where that comes from.
That's right.
Someone just flashed something in the chat that said, "We love you, Shanice."
Oh, thank you.
So I and yay, Dr. Leonard and Nora from Delaware. Okay, Nora from Delaware, you're not going to take over our show.
I know who that is, Nora from Delaware.
So I have a couple things to say before we get out here. One, I want to talk to the brothers out there and encourage the brothers to go get checked as well, to get all your checks for PSAs and all that. But also, if you feel something in your chest that you ain't been out boxing or doing anything else, to get checked, because it's not just a disease of women or Black women. It's anybody who has breasts, as we've learned. But I want to say this to my sister, Shanice, who's like a younger sister, because I got a little gray up here. So, I got some age. I just want to thank you for being so open and revealing and truly serving. You are serving what you're supposed to be doing. You are serving your audience en masse with your story, also your gift. So you are a storyteller. But I am honored to know you first. Second, to serve as your music director when I'm not doing this and when I'm not handling this intern over here. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story, because we need to hear you. I mean, in the past 2 years, I've had 2 of my friends. Well, I lost one sister to this disease years ago, but I've had 2 of my friends, 2 fantastic vocalists, incredible, Cy Smith and Shanice, go through this, and both have come and shared at vulnerable times. But I really want to thank you. I just,
absolutely.
They say give you your flowers. I can't give you your flowers right now on here, but I can make some applause, right? Because that's what I do.
You got to teach the intern how to do that too.
Got to teach the intern how to do that.
I appreciate that. No, I just I wanted to tell my, I said, well, maybe I can help save, even if I can help save one life, that's That's a lot. So that's why I decided to tell my story. But sometimes I wonder, did I tell my story too soon? Because I'm still testing it all too. Like, I'm just here trying to talk, and I'm like, and I'm like, am I like, I don't know. I'm like, did I tell it too soon? Or do I still need?
No, like Dr. Leonard keeps saying, and I had to write it down, Dr. Leonard, be where your feet are. This is the moment in time that you are in. This is where you get to share.
Right. And I think it is, as Lila said, I think it hits particularly, just really strongly. I'm losing my words because of your emotion, and because it is so new, and because you're so authentic. I believe that you will influence so many people. And I heard you during your show, during your performance, talk about it. It was a whole nother audience and a whole nother set of way of being brave. So, we very much thank you. I don't know if we have time for one more question, or if my producers are going to shut that down.
We're going to shut that down.
We're going to shut that down.
Your producer.
Well,
go ahead.
Well,
go ahead. If you want to wrap it up, Dr. Mel, you can wrap it up.
Well, I do quickly want to ask Dr. Leonard, if a woman doesn't have insurance, because we're coming into a period of time where there are going to be a lot of people that don't have insurance, what can they do for screening and for treatment?
Most states do have programs for those who are underinsured or underinsured. The breast and cervical cancer programs, BCCP is what they're called. Go to your local health departments. Many systems still have clinics for those who are underinsured and underinsured. And oftentimes we can seek resources. So it's really kind of looking at our health departments, looking for our state and city run programs, and also looking for programs run by other organizations and institutions. There are resources out there. They can just be a little tougher to find sometimes, but you're right. It's going to happen, and people need to know.
Don't let that be a stumbling block. And on that note, I want to thank you all again from the bottom of my heart for being here, for being the wealth of knowledge, for sharing your experience. Thanks to my fantastic producers and to the Be Health Empowered family for the wonderful questions. And until we see you next time, remember, be wise, be well, and be health empowered. Thank you for joining us.